Hello everyone, this is Max with A1 Website Pro again. Today's tutorial is going to be on tables and dealing with tables. I have a blank web page here at A1 Website Pro, test.php, and basically we're going to learn how to use a site too, and we're just typing table press. Okay, so this tutorial, this is it would be a good idea to go through this tutorial about tables and table press. We're going to take some codes out of here, and here's a code right here we're going to start with, and this is going to be all about styling the table and everything. So I'm going to just hit Control A, Control C, just like that, and I'm going to paste it into my code editor, and I'm going to hit save, and upload that online, and you'll see now I have this little table. Okay, now the issue comes in whenever we start putting text in. Let me get some text, just like that. I like to go to this site here to just fill my content with some dummy text. And I just copy this right here, and maybe I'll put some in this table. Maybe I'll scroll down, put some in this table, and in this table column down here at the end. Okay? And then whenever I save that and I refresh it on the website, you see here we have this long text over here and long text over here. So it's kind of pushing all of this stuff down even though there's nothing in here. So some people were asking me, hey, how about making these in nice, neat 3 columns and, make it all just one height. All right, so let's talk a little bit about that. So first of all, what we do, instead of, see how we're establishing the width of 200 here, a border of 1, cell spacing, cell padding, I'm going to get rid of all that right there, and I'm going to handle this all with CSS. So I'm going to give my table an ID of my table, just like that here, and then you'll notice if I refresh over here, and now the lines disappear and everything like that, but the table's still in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that down a couple notches, and I'm going to put in a style tag. STYLE, just like that. Alright, and then I'm going to target this table ID of my table, okay, just like that here, and then I'll be able to start giving it some text or some style. Now you notice this right here this is a table row. TR is table row, TD is table column. All right, now what I could do here is on my table in the style sheet, I could duplicate this a couple of times by hitting Control D and Notepad++, and this gives me 2 more areas. And this one I'm going to target the table row. Okay, and this one I'll target the table column, just like that. Now, so just to let you know, let's say the table row, maybe we'll want the background to be, we'll just call it red right now. Okay, so I'll make the background of the table rows. Now the table row is this thing clear across the top here, and if I hold refresh, you'll see that all of them become red. Now, let me go back in here for my table columns, and let me make them blue. This can give you kind of an idea of where you want to start working with. Notice it changes all of them to blue because the table column is, inside the table row. And so inside there we have the text. And we can make the text white. Color $FFF is the CSS code for white, and all the text will become white. See that? Okay. So now how do we start getting ready to style this so it's only a certain height? Well, what we have to do is on these table rows, in the table columns, we can put display block. And then what we want to do is set a height, HEIGHT, to, I don't know, let's say, 500 pixels, okay, or something like that. And so when we save that and we refresh, we see nothing happens. Why? That's because we did it in the table column. Let's do it in the table row. Okay, so we'll take that out of there. We'll paste that right into the table row. Hit save so it uploads to the server. And now you notice that all the content gets pushed. It pushes the other columns over, and that's why you have these little, if I zoom in here, you see the columns are still there, there's just nothing in there. And in this one we have the center column, so we have a little column on this side, and then if we scroll over, we have a column on the other side, okay? And then the same bottom, we have two columns here, and then this is the last column. All right, so how do you handle something like that where it's just pushing stuff over? Well, what we'd want to do is go into the table columns, right, and give it a width. And we'll just say 30%. And you notice it just pushes everything back, you know, to where you want it to be. Instead of the height being 500 pixels, let's make it 200 pixels. So we can set up the tutorial for what we want to do. Okay, now you'll notice that we have the text bleeding over into the other rows. Okay, so even though we have these set to 200, you know, they're bleeding over into the next row. And this one auto expands to go down, you know, however long the content is. All right, so this height is kind of like a variable height for your table rows. All right. When it comes to the last row in the table, okay. All right. So now, what do we got to do about taking care of this? Well, one thing that we could do is we could put an overflow hidden in the table row, and that would take care of that, right? So overflow hidden. But now, what about your other text? You know, to make the scroll and so on and so forth. How would you handle that? Because here's the problem. If you try to put overflow scroll here, okay, where you want it to scroll, you know, then you have they only put the scroll bars at the end of the row. And if you try to put them overflow scroll with inside the table column, it's just not going to work. You'll get the scroll bar, but you know, it's already overflowing. And if you put overflow hidden up here and then overflow scroll there, like this, you'll see that this isn't going to work for you either, okay? Because you still don't get the scroll bars that you need, right? I mean, you could try to put overflow X scroll, you know, or overflow Y scroll. Y is up and down vertical, X is horizontal. Right? But that's still not going to work for you. So how do you handle something like this? Well, you've just met the limitations of using a table. Okay? So what you want to do is put each one of these into a div. Okay? Each one of these pieces of content into a div. And so maybe we'll give it a div class of scrollable. So with inside here, inside the table, we're going to give a div class of scrollable. We got to put our quotation marks here. All right. And then, here, let me just highlight this so it makes the process a little bit simpler. And then at the end here, right before the closing of the column, we need to put another div to close out the scrollable div. Let's do the same thing in these other ones. Okay. And then this one here. Okay. And then so now we have divs within inside these columns that we can target with CSS. And so what we'll do is add another command to our CSS. Let's go up here into our style tag and put in, you know, the scrollable class that we targeted with 100% height, 100% margin true. Okay, now what happens when we do that is we still have the overflow. All right. So what we want to do is we want to set the table column. We want to give it a height of 200 pixels, just like that. Okay. Now you notice we have the scroll bars, you know, in each column, in each cell, wherever we put that div. So that's one way we can handle, you know, the overflow within a table. We want to keep it nice and neat, and we want scroll bars in there, as we could handle them with a div. But then again, you could say to me, hey Max, I don't like all them scroll bars just showing up there immediately. I mean, I want to look neater, maybe handle it with some JavaScript. Well, that would be fine too. You can handle that with scroll JavaScript. So we'll just take the same div where it says scrollable, and for just overflow, we'll take the -y out, and we'll say hidden right here, just like this, okay? And then whenever we refresh the page, we're back to where we started. But now, how do we do this with JavaScript? Well, let's write a JavaScript command, and let's put it clear at the bottom here. And I already wrote it out for the sake of time, and I'll explain this to you in detail. Okay, so we're calling a function here in JavaScript called mouseover. This is our function that we're going to use. And within this function, we're going to get elements by class name. And the class name is scrollable. We know that we named every one of these divs scrollable, that we have text in here. Okay, so we're going to set that variable x, and then we're going to add on to it a style background of black, and then a style overflow y, that's up and down, that's vertical. We're going to put a scroll bar on that whenever they hover over it. So what we're going to have to do is go up to one of these, and this isn't going to work on all three of them. You'll have to give them all different div class, but I'm going to show you how to deal with that. If you put on mouse over hover, and let me just put this on the other ones just so I can show you how it's not going to work out for you. If you think that you're just going to put this on all of them like this. And I'll save that, upload it, I'll refresh the page, and you'll notice when we hover over this, we get the scroll bar. Well, yay, okay, so, but when we go to hover over the next one, we're not getting it. And why? It's because that this only works for one element. So what we'd have to do is, in the div class of scrollable, we'd have to give, in fact, let's start it up at the top. This is scrollable, and then maybe we'll make this scrollable 2. Maybe we'll make this scrollable 3, and then the same thing on the mouse over. Maybe we'll make it mouse over 2, and then we'll make this mouse over 3. Okay, so this will help you to deal with it. And then what we want to do is duplicate these functions 2 times. In fact, let me just highlight these entire lines. Duplicate, and we need mouse over 2. We need mouse over 3. And I'll have all this code for you today on Website Pro with this tutorial. So then that way you could just cut and paste these. And you could change these to whatever you want. Black, red, blue, green, whatever. Even have it, or take it out altogether. It doesn't matter. Okay, so, but the next thing that we have to change is up here where it says scrollable. We're going to have to duplicate this 2 times and then put commas after scrollable. And then this would be scrollable 2, comma, and then scrollable 3, but we will not put a comma at the last end. And that way we still get our height and our overflow of hidden initially. Now, since we changed them here, we also have to change them in the JavaScript where we're targeting the class name, right? So if we go down here, we have scrollable, and then we have scrollable 2, right? And then scrollable 3. And let me save this, and we'll refresh it, and you can see that when we hover over them, we could hover over them one at a time. You see we get the scroll bar there, scroll bar there. Okay, let me refresh it again. And hover over there, get the scroll bar there, roll there, and do it one more time, and then just the middle one. Okay, so that's how we could target things in JavaScript and, change the background color. You could give it pretty much any kind of style that you want. So if that option works for you, where you get the scroll bar and you're able to scroll down, that's good too. Alright, so these are 2 different methods on how to handle tables whenever you want to keep them a certain width and a certain height, and still have that nice pretty table. But if you can put as much content as you want in there, when they hover over it, they'll be able to scroll down and see the content. Alright, this is Max with Able Website Pro. I hope this tutorial will help somebody out on their tables. And these same principles would apply in TablePress. You would just have to add the scripts and the CSS within the TablePress. And if you're not familiar with that, you could go to A1 Website Pro and hit this search and type in TablePress, for WordPress. And tables are tables. It's going to function pretty much the exact same way, whenever you put all this code in the back end. Just remember your script tags and your style tags. You can actually put all these commands in your style sheet if you want to. Okay, thanks, Max. Talk, blah, blah, blah. Until next time.